Hey guys, today I'm going to talk to you about creating a newsletter that will support your advertising agency. So there's a few main things that I think about here. There's what is our ultimate purpose and our objective, using that as a guide. There's how often do we send this out, because before we even think about what we're doing, that's usually a concern. How often do I have to commit to this thing? We're going to talk about the content of what should you actually include in there, and that has to align to the purpose of what we are doing. And then we'll talk about how do you actually execute and make sure that happens consistently. So let's jump right into it. The purpose of a newsletter, and this is an email newsletter that we're talking about primarily. We could talk about different cases where you do print as well, which I think is a wonderful tactic in many ways. But an email newsletter is something that's readily accessible, possible for us to do easily enough. And what we're thinking about here is, what are we trying to accomplish with this newsletter? It is not there to have sales pitches go out. It's not there just to generate business in that sense. It's really there as a way to have a connection remain. So when we do engage with someone, maybe they don't end up customers right now or clients. Maybe they do end up as clients. Maybe it's someone who might be a referral partner just in our network in whatever way. Maybe it's someone who found us online. Whatever that source is, we now have a way to stay in touch with them, communicate on an ongoing basis, and just have a steady drip, light drip over time. And with that, there will be business results that come. I've done a monthly newsletter for 5 years now, 5.5 years. Only missed it twice. And in those 5.5 years, there's been countless times where I've had new clients come in, or even more so, referrals based on people who just stay present with me. And it's been wonderful to stay connected with professionals that I've met who might be a light acquaintance or have become good friends. Generally, it helps all around because it's tough to stay really in touch over time with people, and this is a way to simplify that at scale. And as a supplement to your business development practice, you now have something where you're touching base with someone on a regular basis. That is the ultimate purpose. Connection, consistency, and positioning yourself through what you do share and remaining as the expert in that positioning. So that gets to the logical question of how much am I really working on here? So like I mentioned, I do this monthly. I have my mini MBA memo that goes out each month. And this is something I've done for 5.5 years. It works well for me. It's something that takes very little time at this point. It might take 45 minutes of my time, candidly. And that's a wonderful investment for me to do once a month. And that, again, is after a lot of practice. It might take a little bit long, but this isn't a full day initiative to come up with a newsletter. In the very least, you should be doing it monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly. If you reach out less than every 3 months, then it's just not consistent enough. If you try to do more than monthly, then it is simply too much in this type of business. But every 1, 2, 3 months, that's something that you can work with. And now you're talking about coming up with 4, 6, or 12 newsletters each year. It's pretty simple. It's a steady investment of your time and resources, and it's something that is super manageable, but it returns back to you over time too. It's a good regular practice as well, depending on your take for how you want to handle this newsletter, because it kind of forces you to create content on a consistent basis, and it helps you as well as others kind of keep track of the months going by. So what do we actually want in this newsletter? The content itself, it's super important to get this right, because it isn't just about what content are we producing in there, but it's also creating a structure of what that content's going to be. So there's a couple of different pieces of what you want in here. Ultimately, I look at it as content buckets, so that you know every time that you have to write this newsletter, there's, say, 3 buckets that you have to fill. And now you don't have to scramble and worry about what do I say in this newsletter time and time again. You have the plan, you have the structure, you just have to fill in the recent topic. So I think it's always nice if you want to take a more personal approach with your newsletter, and that's based on how you position your agency. Then you can introduce yourself in that newsletter. You can make it a little bit of a welcome from you. The rest of it doesn't have to be all from your perspective, but I like to start my emails with a personal intro from me, where I share a little bit about my life right now, or what is on my mind. So that is something you can just do as a free-flowing conversational intro. You might opt for getting right into the nitty-gritty if you're taking more of the approach of positioning the agency and not the individual running it, then it's fine to cut away from that personal approach. The important piece there is you want to now position yourself as the expert and maintain that position. So this is where you share some thinking that is going to be intriguing to the audience. Make them think about things in a different way. And this, I think about business frameworks, business principles, and I apply it to what I am focused on. So if you are specialized in a certain area, in a certain industry, now you can take a business principle, maybe from another element, another industry. You can maybe pull something from a book that you've read, and you can apply that to that specific space. So adapt an idea, a general business idea, a general advertising idea, apply it to the manufacturing space. You apply it to cannabis industry if you're focusing on that. Whatever it might be for yourself that you specialize in, cater to that. Then you can go into some news to share, which I typically will share something like new clients, announcing that, sharing something about my clients to highlight them, kind of give back, sharing any new content that I create, if it's a video or an article, say, hey, check this out. It can even be a social media post that has gained some attention. Some of that's going to matter on what you have going on. Could be sometimes events or if you're hiring, but give something new. Everyone likes news. New this, new that. That is something that will get attention. So you can drop in a section for that. So we have something to position you as an expert. We have some news to share. Then I would look to sharing something that might just be simply interesting. Now, for me, I take the angle of here's a interesting book that I've read in this past month. Sometimes I've done also here's a online program, an online course, something on Coursera that I've followed. You can take an angle of here's a cool software tool if you're in a space where it's a little bit more techy. Here's something industry specific again, if you can focus on a niche of some sort and really double down on that. This is stuff that you're collecting and sharing as, hey, here's something really cool. Doesn't mean you're creating it. So again, this is where you keep things streamlined. And that rounds things out as far as the content. Now, the final thing is you need to execute on that, and there's two things for you to do. One, schedule it in your calendar. Figure out what that consistency is, if it's every month, 2 months, 3 months. Figure out what day you want to send it on. The first of the month seems to do pretty well because people seem to appreciate that. At least I've gained that feedback several times from my own newsletter. So figure out what that schedule is. Now, at least a week in advance, schedule an hour, let's say for now, schedule 2 hours to be safe, where you're going to work on that newsletter to get it ready. And so now you have that block of time in your calendar. It needs to be in your calendar if it's going to get done. If it's not, then it might slip by, and we don't want that. And the second thing is you need a good software to operate this, so I'll be very transparent in that. I like ActiveCampaign. It's usually my recommendation for most clients and most peers that I talk to. It's got a good balance of price point and features offered. It's fairly user-friendly. I will share a link to that. Go to davidbradleymba.com/ActiveCampaign. That is an affiliate link. If you don't want to give me a commission, just go to activecampaign.com. That's fine also. But check that out as my go-to recommendation. I try to avoid certain other tools. Not a big fan of Constant Contact, a little bit too limited by MailChimp. Now it's nice to have a free starting plan, but if you want something that's really comprehensive and powerful, ActiveCampaign is typically the go-to. Doesn't mean it's 100% all the time the best thing to recommend, and I never really recommend anything 100% of the time, but that is the definite majority. I don't know how much percent, but it's up there. It's a fairly safe bet for most businesses, and certainly in the ad agency space, it's a surefire tool that covers all the bases of what you would need. So check that out, get it scheduled, get a good software in place, start building those lists, and over time, you can just build a more consistent, heavier database of prospects, referral sources, and other contacts that you just simply wish to stay in front of and stay connected to over time.